around a lot of them to help them, and many of those are literally in, homeowners, almost like their backyards, because their area backs up to these retaining ponds. And I asked the city, or I asked the HOA director, because that's who they coordinated with, about approximately how much the project cost. And, they did get some funding from residents to help shore it up, but, it was hundreds, or not hundreds of thousands, but it was in the, $10,000 to $20,000 range. And they used a combination of native plants and natural wood structures to help shore up some of the really eroded banks of these retaining ponds. And then they added in the native plants, and they're already seeing, birds and other, pollinators coming, and it's really looking, they showed the before and after pictures, and it's looking beautiful. And I actually wanted to talk with our Waldoons Community Association about it, because we actually have quite a few retaining ponds in Waldoons that are starting to look a little ragged. So anyway, it was very interesting. Very
I don't
interesting.
know if I don't know if this would be a fit or not, but Robert and I talk a lot about the fact that when they're doing ditch side maintenance, they're
Yes.
creating kind of loose soils on the shores of on the banks of those ditches.
Yes.
And I think Robert is casting just kind of ryegrass, I think is what it is. It's just, the fast growing grass to hopefully get some roots in there. But if there was a kind of magic mix that would thrive in those
Yeah.
environments, it would be good for us to know
I
that.
apologize, I didn't bring, but I can,
Yeah,
after
that
the
would-
meeting's over, I can give you the name of the company that actually they coordinated, that Seaside Farms coordinated with to do this project.
That would be great. Yeah, we've actually been having that
Okay.
conversation about what would do well, what would
Yeah,
grow quickly, establish itself.
right, okay. Well, after the meeting, let me get your contact information, and then I left the brochure back at the, unless, Mary, do you?
What?
No, that's
the one
you
that
don't
I
have the
took to the meeting, and I made 40 of these, and they were all taken.
No,
So
that was the.
That's about our garden.
Our garden.
Did I do
But I
what?
left the brochure with the name of the company that did the breakout session. So I'll get that to you after.
That'd be great.
And I have one more thing about, the breakout session I went to about maintaining a native plant garden was done by Sean Cannon of the Kiowa Conservancy. And I'd got a couple of interesting things. He said pretty much the same as Charlene has told us, just leave it alone, let it all go to seed, and don't cut it back yet. It needs to sit there like it is, even though it's kind of unsightly, some of it, for the winter. Simplify the design, use fewer different plants, and don't let a few of them take over. And that's what I was thinking, what are we going to do now? Do we have to put every single one back, even the ones that failed, and keep on and on? And I thought, let's just go with what we have and keep it
See
trimmed
what
and make it
survival
look
of the
good.
fittest kind of.
Yeah. Laura and
Debbie?
Suggs and I went this week, and we weeded, and I took the hedge trimmers to the dune sunflower that was taking over everything, and with Charlene's blessing, she said, yeah, chop that back because it'll just take over. So I've been talking to Charlene this week. She told me when we were talking at the meeting that she would be willing to come back and help us, put new pine straw down and cut back what we're allowed to cut back, because I've been scared to do anything against her wishes. And so she said she could come on the 15th of November at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
So I'm going to send out to our whole committee and others like Debbie Suggs who've been helping us. And we'll see how many people we can get there at 9:30 on November 15th. She said, I'll read some of her, a couple of sentences. I can bring and donate a few bales of pine straw. I had offered to buy the pine straw because I know we had that budget for her right at the beginning.
Yeah.
She said a few more bales will be needed later in the season after the dune sunflower gets killed by the frost to cover that area. If possible, it would be helpful to have a small budget from IOP for annuals and replacement plants of different species for the few perennials that didn't thrive this year, as well as compost and pine straw for spring. So I don't know.
We could certainly do that.
I'm gonna,
That's a-
I wrote her back and said, hey, could we just simplify and not replace everything that was there? So I haven't heard back
Yeah.
from her, but maybe we won't have
We'll
to
know
do
that,
much.
I mean, a small budget
I
is
didn't-
something that we
It'd just
could,
be a couple of $100.
Yeah, we could
or
certainly-
less than that.
we could certainly
I
do
didn't
that.
know if our committee had any
You do?
discretionary funds.
You
Oh,
do?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Great.
I'll be quiet.
Are we
That's great.
reporting back from the Beneath the
Yes,
Oaks Native Plant
yes, Laura and I
Symposium?
already have. You want to add
I was
anything?
talking about one of the breakout sessions I went to.
We
Which one
talked
did you go
about
to,
where we
Robert?
went.
Well, the second one I went
After.
to was a municipal one with Kiowa and Mount Pleasant represented. Kiowa was talking about a new ordinance they're developing with a lot of guidelines, and I see that as for a community that's at where we're at, maybe like at the end of a road. Once we've like gotten more native plant awareness, adoption, have something that's a little closer to what they have with the lawn program to sort of recognize as native plant lawns. But they're now at the point where they're discussing an ordinance with a lot of requirements for a certain coverage of native plants on the lawn.
percentage of the yard
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
dedicated.
Yeah,
Which is sort of what is recommended for all of the benefits,
Right.
Biodiversity, rain, water absorption, et cetera. Like all the benefits come in once you hit a certain amount of the lawn. It doesn't have to be the whole lawn. So it's really interesting to see. I think it'd be good for that just to be in our back pocket as sort of a roadmap to, oh, wow, if we could get here. And Mount Pleasant talked about how they do a lot of roadside work. When you're going through Mount Pleasant, you see the foliage in the
Kind of
middle.
medians, yeah.
Yeah, that's all native plants. They sort of have a palette of native plants that they use. The fellow who gave the presentation has been with the city for 20 plus years, and it just sort of entrenched into what they do. And he had some good specifics as well. And I don't know, how that could be maybe just folded into the way IOP routinely does things. But
Well, we could definitely talk about it either at a future agenda, because it's not here, but, I mean, Robert is the kind of point of contact with the landscaping contractors, and I don't know exactly which areas we replenish frequently, kind of where there's beds, and I do know that Robert's kind of had an interest in also adding native plants when possible, so if you guys want to talk about that as a future topic, or if you want a quick few
Yeah,
comments,
Actually, real, if you don't mind me.
come on up, Robert. You just stay right there
Yeah.
too. Don't go.
yeah, make sure you've got the mic.
So that's what we've been, not struggling with, but every year we have flower beds in the city that they're all annuals. And with our climate here, if the irrigation's off or, something happens, they burn out quickly, we're constantly turning over. I think we're spending somewhere like $6,000 to $8,000 each planting
Wow.
on
Wow.
all the beds, and you're just really, annuals are being put in, they're being pulled out, so we're kind of struggling with what to put in there. We
Is
don't-
this up at the connector, with
well, it's
connector and
Little
Palm?
Front Beach, basically,
Oh,
and at the.
Kinda
yes,
ends of the road-
At the
end of the-
connector, yes, at the connector and the intersection here. So that has been a desire, obviously haven't gotten to it yet, but to look at alternatives to actually just not have that cycle where we're ripping out, and that could even include grasses, because they're very large beds. So the thing what happens
They are.
too, they don't plant a lot of flowers, so you have this big bed with not a lot in it. So I think we can do grasses, perennials, and then just kind of have them, even to do it for a trial to see how it works out, because we'll do some winter flowers because we do have our festivals up there, pansies and things like that
Right.
will take the colder weather. But I think it's definitely somewhere where we can introduce, I think they'll do well.
What kind of a cycle, when you say $6,000 to $8,000 or planting
It's per
several?
year, so,
Oh,
but
per-
they're, yeah, per year, so they're pulling them out spring and fall.
Okay,
Yeah, spring and
Okay.
Kind
fall.
of two cycles.
Yeah, so.
I knew there used to be a lot of talk about, and maybe it was a Public Works color in a season.
Mhm.
And I don't know if, would the same be true with natives? Would it, and I don't know if
Yes.
that's still, I don't hear that as much as I used to, like, oh, we need to add some color. So I guess that would be the first thing for you, is that that's still a thing? And if it is still a thing, is,
yeah, I mean, we definitely have natives that specifically are blooming in spring.
Certain seasons.
Into
Right.
summer, and then others that, and then they're gone, but then and then others that are coming up closer into the fall. Not necessarily winter, but
Right.
there's definitely a cycle for natives too.
Maybe Charlene
And
could make some
Charlene could,
suggestions.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I was going to say, the fellow who gave the presentation, Eddie Bernard, is an urban forester with the town of Mount Pleasant. And he, I'm sure, would be really happy to share their list of plants.
What's the name again?
Eddie Bernard.
His name is
Eddie.
Eddie.
Eddie,
And that's ebernard@tompsc.com, townofmountpleasant.com.
is it BERNARD?
BERNARD.
yeah, he does the tree.
He's an arborist.
He,
He's an
we
arborist?
interface with
Yeah,
him on
yeah.
tree things occasionally. He does their tree removal approvals.
Well, he's also a plant head. And you mentioned hedges that are some native evergreen, Dahoon, inkberry, Yopon hollies, wax myrtle, Walters viburnum, cherry laurel, devilwood, and then some deciduous hedges. So I think there are lots of potential choices
And
out
that-
there.
Yeah, for the grass, more the, just green. all
Can
year
you all
round.
think of a decorative? I do recall. I mean, I know because I drive through. I go to West Ashley, and there's definitely islands of kind of fountain grass, But I will say, to my eye, it's kind of a hardy grass. It looks good year round, but it's not kind of a flowering thing. Are you all aware of places that the town might be doing that would be an example of like a pop of color that they're maintaining that?
I'm not aware, but Eddie would be a great person to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always sweetgrass,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
that's kinda
just
what-
in the fall. though.
Right.
Yeah,
But
it's blooming,
colorful
it's
then.
blooming now.
Yeah.
Anything else from wildlife?
We had a 20th turtle stranding this morning, but that's Sullivan's Island too, mostly Sullivan's.
Okay.
Yeah, those propellers, they chop them up
Oh, wow. Yeah.
this morning.
Why don't we move on to then the discussion about litter? And I wanted to see if maybe I could go first, Robert, if you don't mind, because I just had some general comments that I wanted to make, because I know Douglas had mentioned last time at our meeting too, that he'd like to have some suggestions from the group. And so I was just going to pass this around. I sent this out in an email, but it came out yesterday, so I didn't know if people had had a chance to look at it or not. But Robert and I have been talking a lot of trash over the last couple of weeks. Did you get one? But anyway, so I just wanted to provide some background information and summarize some of the things that we have discussed within our committee in kind of a succinct format. And then I think that Robert has some suggestions with regards to what they're doing currently at Kiowa. So just to give you a little bit of background, I learned from looking at trash on the island that we actually have 55 beach access points. I didn't have any idea we had that many. And most of these beach access points have some type of trash can. Most of these trash cans are the open yellow garbage cans. And the number of cans at the access point ranges between 1 and 12. I think I counted 12 there at that Front Beach commercial area. So that's a lot of garbage cans. In addition to that, we have 29 trash cans located along the commercial area where the businesses are located, and that's a mix of black cans. And then in the municipal parking lot, there are yellow trash cans there as well. So for these cans that are on the sand, most of them rest on the most of them on the beach rest on the sand, which makes them very unstable and kind of susceptible to tipping over, especially when people put in large, heavy items like broken beach chairs or tents or umbrellas or what have you. Then they tend to tip over. You know, we've had a lot of discussion about problems with litter being blown out of the cans or taken out of the cans by wildlife. And I don't know if people have thought about this or not, but the cans on the beach have to be removed by Public Works when the area is threatened by tropical systems and king tides. So in the month of October, I guess you guys removed the trash cans from the beach twice.
Yes.
So that is a lot of work that maybe we could spend that time doing some other things. We do have a current contract, everybody's aware of that, with an independent contractor, and they use specialized equipment that requires the use of the open cans. So in terms of recommendations, I think that we have an opportunity to do different things in different areas. So at the street side and, perhaps in the municipal parking lot, we might identify a particular type of can that would be more appropriate, and that might be a little different than the cans that are located, on the beach access paths. Some of the access paths have heavier traffic than others, and one option might be for those that have a heavy amount of foot traffic would be to maybe have cans in both locations, to have cans at the street side and also have cans close to the beach but not on the beach. So we had looked at some areas and thought about some areas that are just kind of behind the dune line as being a possibility. At the front beach in the commercial area, there's even some possibilities of, there's some wooden walkways that lead out to the beach. It might be possible to even do like a cutout of that walkway and establish a place to put the cans that would get them off of the beach itself, close to the beach, but not necessarily on the beach. As far as the type of opening is concerned, we've heard about having covered openings, and I think that there are a couple of options there we might consider. One is, it's called a dome type, and I brought a picture of it because it's basically a trash can with a dome over it so that you can you don't have to touch it to, open a handle or anything like that, but you can put trash in from all four sides. It would be a type of can that would require an internal trash can that potentially would have to be, have a liner, maybe not, but it would keep things cleaner if it did. Another type of opening is like a pull-down handle, sort of like a mailbox, where you pull the handle down. And the benefit of having openings like that is it prevents people from inserting large objects in them. So you can't put in a beach umbrella into a can that's going to look like that. They would also keep rain out and keep, I think they would help keep animals out and that kind of thing as well. We do have some current roll carts that are the same as the ones that we use as homeowners. That might also be an option at the street side as well. As far as aesthetics, when we started thinking about trash cans, initially the conversation was more about do we want to have the cans on the beach or do we want to have the cans on the street side? But I think we also have an opportunity to make things look nicer than just having the yellow cans if we do decide to make a switch. Some options could include cans that might be of a color that's more compatible with the environment, maybe something that is a beige or a green or something along those lines versus the yellow. You can get, some cans have wraps that you can put around the can that might have turtles on them or, something to that effect. And then the other thing I think we have to consider is if we do decide to put cans at the street, then the cans would need to be enclosed in so that they are in line with our ordinances currently, which relates to no visible cans on the street.
That's correct.
Yeah. So we'd have to think about that. So I wanted to mention, because I just am kind of curious about this, Big Belly cans. You guys familiar with Big Belly? The airport trash cans, you guys may have seen some of those. You can pass that around if you like. We had a chance to meet with the Big Belly sales rep. Just by chance, he was in Charleston in October, and he was meeting with the city of Charleston, and they were negotiating a contract or renegotiating a contract with them. And so while he was here, he came out and met with Robert and I, and we talked about the Big Belly cans. So the Big Belly cans have two openings. They have a pull-down opening, like a kind of like a mailbox, and they also have a foot pedal. So if you don't want to touch the opening, you can use the foot pedal. Everything is fully enclosed. It has a large capacity in that it's a 50-gallon capacity, but it has a compactor. And the compactor is operated through solar power. There's a solar panel on it. And so when the trash reaches a certain level, the compactor compacts the trash. So it really takes this 50-gallon can and extends it to about a 150-gallon can. Which may be something that might be worthy of consideration in an area like that Front Beach commercial area. It wouldn't be anything that we would want for, ocean front. But in that commercial area, it might be an option that's worthy of consideration. They have different levels of sophistication with Big Belly. From anything from kind of a basic can all the way up to one that collects data for you and sends it to you. So you can look at things like how much trash you're collecting and how frequently you're having to empty the cans. And, there may be some benefits of that. But anyway, they're not cheap. There are a couple of ways that they can be utilized in a municipality. One way is they can be purchased outright. The second way is that you can do a lease agreement with a maintenance, I think it includes a maintenance contract. So you can lease the cans and then they come and service them on a periodic basis. So anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. And we did talk about some grants in the past. I think one was the Palmetto Pride grant. And Mary, you may remember about that, Palmetto Pride. Mm-hmm. And I know they have some monies available. I don't know if this might be something that could be a possibility, but it may bring some savings through less frequent emptying of the cans, possibly the need for fewer cans or something of that nature. But anyway, final thoughts is that whatever we do, I think that we do have to, if we make a change, I think we do have to utilize our resources on our website and maybe social media and different things to make sure we educate the community. I bet there are not many people in this community that know that we have 55 beach accesses that we have to service, and that know that we have to remove all the cans from all these beach accesses every time we have a weather event. And so,
I have a question. I know the access path numbers go up to, what is it, 58?
57.
57.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are paths in between those, like 7A and 6A.
Yeah.
And so I thought there were more, to tell you the truth.
well, this actually
Maybe
came
they don't
from
have
a.
all of them don't have cans.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. This came from a South Carolina website. So you could put in the beach, and it would tell you how many access paths each beach had.
So that probably does not include Wild Dunes then, right?
No, I think it does.
Does it?
Yeah,
Since it's not a public access.
I've always thought we had 57.
We have, from what I got, it was 56, so right in the middle of
Right.
both of you.
We have 57
There's
road.
56 beach
Beach
paths,
paths.
not including Wild Dunes. Wild Dunes has approximately 12 beach paths. So that would be
Yeah.
68
Yeah.
total.
Mary, I've always asked the question why there wouldn't be more beach paths than roads, because we have mid-block, we're supposed to have one at the end of each road and then a mid-block one. So I would have thought there's kind of twice as many. We have 57 avenues.
We don't have 19, 20, or,
But
Yeah.
it just mathematically, I knew it
Yeah.
worked out somewhere.
Yeah,
with-
because then we have some private roads, 50.
Yeah, a handful of private ones, that's right.
Citadel
Yeah.
kind of makes
Kind of
it
makes it
more-
up so that
yeah, so
all
that's-
about the same
Yeah.
number.
There's a couple A's in there, so I think it does bring it
Yeah.
back to the same number.
Yeah, and there's a website that I put on the handout that I gave you that shows a picture of the Isle of Palms and all the beach access paths. And I thought it went to Wild Dunes, but that may not, I know it can only go so far, because around Ocean Point, there's nothing,
Right. yeah,
there's nothing around Ocean
yeah,
Point.
nothing on Ocean
Yeah.
Point.
But I
And
thought it went into Wild Dunes, but I'm not 100%
Yeah, so
sure.
from the document you sent me, which was from,
That's the local comprehensive beach management plan, right?
Right.
Is that,
yes, and that's the one I
it
went
should be
off.
aligned, but
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then it showed the ones, up to 56th, and then Wild Dunes was not in that, and I do believe that is correct.
yeah, they're not, I mean, the Wild Dunes paths are not public beach access.
Right, but they have trash that would get serviced by,
Yes,
so that's why I bring it
So
up.
we still
I don't-
service those, correct?
correct. I just don't think they would be on the state
Right.
No,
list
Right.
as
Because
beach
they're not-
paths, because they're not
Right.
public.
I would agree, yeah.
But I could be,
And it could be that I may have misspoken there. It may just be beach access paths.
Public beach acts, because then you get into private,
Yeah.
once you get into.
Anyway,
Wild Dunes.
I've got the
Yeah.
link there if you want to take a look at it. It's
we can
interesting.
definitely,
Yeah. But those were just really some general thoughts. I think we have some opportunities to to improve our situation for the community as well as for Public Works. Anyway, but you have some information from Kiowa you wanted to share, right?
Yeah, so just coming off of that, I went and spoke to the owner of Trident Sanitation, who does Kiowa Island's beach trash removal, and then also spoke to their operations manager, who is actually scheduling the routes, knows what's going on exactly. So Kiowa, they have 44 beach access paths that are serviced. They have oceanside enclosed corrals that are on the ocean. And in those corrals, they have 2 to 3 45-gallon cans with can liners in them. Those trash cans are manually pulled, the bags are manually pulled out and put into the back of a trailer that is being pulled by a pickup truck. Then they can take that off-site, put it into their larger Trident garbage trucks, because they're on-site doing the rest of the city. They do it 7 days a week, Labor Day through Memorial Day, 3 days a week, off seasons, so from September to the end of October, they'll do it 3 days a week. Then they do one time per week in the winter, November to Memorial Day.
Could you say one more time, the 3 day a week is?
From
Yes.
Memorial Day.
7 days a week from Memorial Day to Labor Day. 3 days a week on the off-season, which they consider September to the end of October, and then one time per week in the winter, November, then back to Memorial Day.
is that similar to our cadence, or is that,
Yes.
we're a little more in the dead of winter than once a,
Yes.
aren't we?
I think we go down to once
We do?
per.
So it sounds like,
Yeah,
I knew it was
the
kind of close to
schedule's
our.
very
Similar to what
Yes.
we
it
do?
gets real busy here in the spring, though. I'm surprised they wait till
Yeah.
Memorial
I
Day.
know, like
Yeah.
around
Yeah, we
Easter and,
But the
And they do it once a
operation
week until Memorial Day?
manager says we are starting to increase the frequency because of the amount
Spring.
Yeah,
of
we
people
got
we're
spring
getting,
break
yeah.
in March.
And I think we're seeing the same thing here. It's not,
Yeah.
we
We
get it.
probably get more day trippers than they do
Yeah.
since they're gated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, that, theirs is just beach sanitation. So keep in mind, because there's a number that comes at the end. They don't do our, they don't have a front beach. They don't have the large municipal parking lot like our contractor currently does. It's just the beach. So,
When you say front beach, they don't do like a commercial area, is that what you
yeah,
mean?
they don't do the
Okay, so
commercial
they're
area.
just doing the
just beach.
beach access
Yes.
pass, okay.
So
And they're
that-
running a truck down the road
They're running the truck on
or down the beach? Down the beach, okay.
Right, on the beach. It's a
then
regular
manually-
pickup truck with a trailer, and they're literally just taking bags,
Throwing it in
putting
the
it.
trailer.
Very labor intensive. They agree it's very labor intensive. So for 44 beach accesses, their price is just above $100,000 also.
Is that in, I should know this, but I think what we currently pay is a little bit more than that?
It's pretty close to both.
So
He
it's
said
kind
north
of-
of 100. I think the contract that we're currently in ranges from, it could be from 100 to 120. And then if it gets really crazy.
So it's less paths, but more work at Kiowa
Mhm.
for basically the same money,
Right.
which kind of makes sense, that it would
Right.
be slightly more intensive for the numbers they do, but they're doing maybe half. Would you kind of guess at the end of the day, that's half the number of,
Yeah, because if you think about it, they're servicing two 45-gallon cans. Some of our locations could be, 8, 12,
50?
55-gallon
Yeah.
barrels.
So I think from my standpoint, I mean, if this group could kind of come up with what you think, to some degree, money aside, I mean, it sounds like the money, we're already putting significant resources towards the effort. If there was a better method that was within the realm of similar money that you thought would improve the process, I think our next step would be to kind of go back, probably be an informal kind of, hey, what are you thinking this would cost? And then if it aligns with what the budget could be, we would, at the time of the request for, at the time the current contract expires, we'd go out for kind of a public process to get bids back. But it would be great from our standpoint if this group could say, hey, from our position, this would be the best solution that's close to what the budget is that's currently being allotted to that program.
That would be where the cans are, what types of cans there are, like sort of a proposed,
I mean, I think
the
what,
hybrid.
yeah, I think
that
what,
we've
I mean,
been
if,
talking
if,
about, yeah.
what Sandy has kind of drawn out, we would maybe add a little bit more detail. If this concept was agreeable to the group, we'd need to get a little more detail with that type of stuff, exactly where, what types of cans,
Yeah.
and then we could work on seeing what that would cost.
So with the cans, would we want to have Trident do the municipal parking lot in the commercial area as well? Or
I think
would we
all-
want them to do just the beach?
Ultimately, if we decide on something, obviously they have to go out to bid.
Mm-hmm.
So whomever would do it, yes, I would say that.
You'd
we
still
would
want
have
them to do
Include
both?
the commercial
Okay.
district. And I do agree, and if you don't mind,
Yeah.
exactly what you said, this whole beach and front beach sanitation isn't gonna be one method. It's really gonna be a combination of different things. So you could have, and kind of the outline that I thought of, just being in this world, is you would have your street side garbage cans with a corral, so nobody would see them. But then we have the concerns of people walking down the beach, and now I'm gonna have to take my trash and go all the way to the street to throw something out that I might have found. So kind of mapped it out, and I think we can get every couple beach paths where we're wide, we can have garbage enclosures right over the dunes. We measured out roughly, it would be 150, 175 feet currently from where the yellow barrels are sitting. So there could be I think there's 8 to 10 locations that we could do from First all the way down, where maybe it's 4 accesses, and then you have a way to get up over the dune, put your garbage and go about your business. So they can also be accessed by a truck. And that's kind of the big thing here, is that both the owner and the operations manager said if you are using a city can that is in an enclosure, the cost is significantly reduced because the apparatus they use, which is a regular garbage truck or a regular pickup truck that has that dumping mechanism, can be brought right to the street. They can pull it around, they can dump it, and then go about their business. You know, they say going on the beach, there's a cost associated with it.
So you're saying some of the cans serviced by one apparatus, and then the beachside cans serviced by a
Well,
pickup truck and a
so if you
trailer,
just
kind of a
took-
mix of the two?
Well, if you just took 25th, for instance, right, it's big, wide open path, that you could have a set of cans right up over the dunes. It's heavily traveled, you might even want it at the front of the street and the back, by the dune. But a truck could get in there, dump it.
But in that example, would the beachside cans be serviced by a pickup truck and a trailer, and the roadside serviced by a automated
From what they
dumper?
said, they would use a conventional dumping like our hopper trucks.
Even at the beachside?
Yes,
So if we place them down the beach path, but they can get a dump truck down there, they would take a,
yes, and they said they could also, in the ones that you couldn't, they would just have to manually pull them.
a guy would go to the
Yeah, there,
end,
get
roll
bring it
it,
to the street
dump
and bring
it.
it back, yeah. I mean, it was pretty interesting. He was really said anything can be done, and,
And you could use different type cans.
yeah, so then if you were to do all your beachside cans, if you're using the city cans, then you can get up to Front Beach where you can do enclosures that will still have the city can in, so they can pull them out the back, but they have an opening. The city can gets the lid flip back. You can put it in there, they're pulling it, they're serving it just like anything else. But you have the nice enclosure that you can wrap and looks.
And you mentioned, I'm sorry, a quick question. You mentioned the front beach being kind of the high traffic and the, like, solving that problem. Is there a similar, on a smaller scale, challenge around the Wild Dunes Resort with the
Well, that's
volume?
the thing, so there's, you know, we would have to get with the Wild Dunes Community Association.
Right.
They would have to get those cans, if they're in an enclosure, however they have them set up, they would have to get them to an access point that they could
Yeah.
service them.
Yeah, okay.
Because, you know, they're on the beach now, so they would have to bring them street side.
Are you guys talking about two different plans, I think, right? You're talking about rolling kind of conventional household garbage cans down at the beach side that somebody's manually pulling up,
Yes.
servicing from the road. Is that the same thing that your plan was? This kind of hybrid plan, does that
Well,
also account for that? Or that could be done that way too?
Well, I think there are lots of different options. Some of the beach paths are not going to be wide enough to be able to, I mean, they're pretty narrow and they've got lots of soft sand. And so they may be more amenable to, you know, taking a can out and removing a plastic liner and putting it on a truck or whatever they do.
Yeah, I only reference the city can because that's the most economical way to do it. There's certainly other ways that they can do it.
Yeah.
You know, certain different cans, but they said for serviceability, if you're looking, there's a significant cost with
Yeah.
that kind of service because they can move them around quickly.
What do you all think about and this is just a kind of a thought, do you think it's important that it be a consistent, I like the idea of a hybrid approach of there being, you know, some paths being a certain way, others being a different way, but do you think the average beachgoer, that it benefits them to have one kind of model that's replicated at every path, like a can at the end of the road or a can at the end of the beach? Does that start to throw people off if every third access has one at the beach?
Well, I mean, what we're talking about, you're talking about in that plan having cans sort of behind the dunes but down the path. And I can see that throwing people off of like, you're on the beach, you get some trash, you go to the nearest station, walk down, and it's not there, as opposed to something that's, you know, in front of the dunes, so you can like see visually,
Yeah.
oh, is this at this stop or not? I mean, that to me is the main potential
If it's back
usability
and
hurdle.
kind of invisible, you wouldn't know which access had the can.
Right,
Oh,
but if,
right.
if, our,
yeah,
but if our
I-
beach cans are, you know, where the current cans are approximately, then you can just eyeball it. I wouldn't think it'd lead to confusion.
Oh, no, I think what I was trying to say is that each access path would have a can, and then some
Oh, and every
access
set,
path.
all
Yeah,
50, whatever.
yeah, like, as we have it now.
Okay,
We would have the same model, they just wouldn't be on the front beach.
back a bit.
But then some paths might even need cans there as well as at the street side.
The street side,
Okay.
yeah.
So a can at every path.
Yeah.
Just back from the beach, in an enclosure, rolling or not rolling, depending on what you
You can get
think
up
is
there.
most economical.
I might suggest, and we've seen this work inside Wild Dunes, there are some of the beach accesses where the only can is at the street. And people that use that access regularly know that.
27th.
And so they will bring it with them up the path. So I wouldn't do that with a high volume area, but if it's a path that's a narrow sandy path with fewer people using that, maybe we only do street for that location.
And some of the A paths don't have cans on the beach now, just at the street.
Well, all the cans that are, and the parts of the beach that are suffering from erosion right now, all those cans are on the street.
That's right.
So there's not anything that's on the beach in that section that I could see the other day.
We're already retraining them.
Huh?
We're already retraining them.
Yeah, there we go. But, you know, what we have is we have the yellow cans
Yeah.
sitting there, which is not consistent with what we have in our ordinance. So we'd have to address that some way, but.
Yep.
I mean, we can, you know, give it some more thought and consideration about how. Oh, did you, I wanted to ask you about the enclosures that they talked about at Kiowa. Do they have, did you see the enclosures, or do you know what they look like?
No.
So I'm assuming they have like a bottom and sides?
Yeah, so from what he described, it's a platform with sides.
Okay,
And then
right.
they just go in and they pull them.
and so they open, it sounds like they're
The
open.
tops would be open, and then you have your can sitting in there.
Okay.
Whether that can has got an opening straight in or a side or whatever, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
And we know they're close enough to the beach, they've been wiped out
yes.
By
once or
king
twice,
tides.
right?
They got wiped out in December is what they told
Yeah.
me,
So they're obviously right at the beach's
right?
edge.
Yeah, and I think that having some kind of enclosure around those cans that if they sit behind the dunes would be beneficial in that they wouldn't tip over. You wouldn't have the problem with them tipping over. You could still have some problems with people putting things in there that don't belong in there, I suppose, or, things blowing out, that kind of thing, but
When we're saying behind the dunes,
just behind that first line of
Primary
dunes.
dunes.
Just as you come over, like if you're leaving the
like,
beach.
most of them have like a little hump. It's behind that little hump.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Land
yeah.
side
Land side,
of that primary
That
dune
Right.
by
primary
some
Yeah.
little amount.
And the reason to put them there and not in front of the dunes is to just guard against big tide events?
well,
or-
I mean, I guess if you had if you had the cans in an enclosure, that would keep them, even if it was on the front beach, it would keep them from tipping over. So
Right.
that would help with one problem. And that would, that would kind of help to contain them a
and
little bit.
beautify it, maybe. Yeah,
It looks a little better, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we could do better in terms of how the cans look. Because as we've started talking about this project, I've noticed cans on beaches, and it makes a big difference. I think Atlantic Beach has a similar situation to Kiowa, where they have the little enclosure. It's got a picket around it like a fence, and it has a bottom to it. And when I was looking at, it took me a moment to, oh, there it is over there, because sort of blended with the environment. It didn't
Stick
really.
out like a yellow barrel.
So there was I mean, you all,
Sand fencing.
they were steel drums, and then the garden club painted them yellow, painted a palm tree, so it became very kind of near and dear to the city, and it kind of was a symbol of the city. I think it's even on some of our posters. It was very kind of iconic. Look, over time, they weren't, they rusted out because they were steel, so they then went to plastic.
Right.
The paint wouldn't stick on plastic for the palm trees. We were grabbing them with an arm, so it was chipping the paint. So it's kind of migrated from a iconic hand-painted thing to now just a yellow barrel, and people are like, that's kind of weird. But that's kind of how we got to where we are today. And
Right.
Yeah.
maybe time to pull the plug on the yellow barrels and go
Yeah.
with something that looks
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, well, so I'm no litter expert. My inclination, just through this discussion, is that if we have consistent trash cans that have the municipal easy access, the mission makes it much more affordable at sort of each beach path on the street side. If that's just a very consistent thing, and then we have I don't know what number, but surely not everyone, but some number of on the beach nice enclosures. With tops and everything you would want to sort of minimize spillage and whatnot, and you could maybe make them quite nice if we save enough in the budget with those other ones.
That's Kiowa's.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Let me
Kiowa's.
see.
Uh-huh.
You know how I know this? Because this was a story where Kiowa turtle team found a turtle nest under one of these.
Oh,
Under
interesting.
one, wow.
Now, if that were painted yellow with a palm tree on it,
That would happen, would
I don't know. The turtles are colorblind.
Camera in the volleyball courts and,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
and also under catamarans.
yeah.
Did-
So that was what's the group reaction? As Belvin said, want it every, and I think we're saying every path
Every
on the
beach
roadside. And then on the roadside, and then a periodic one at ones that we know are higher volume back at the beach, but a more kind of aesthetically pleasing version, whatever that would be. Maybe the Kiowa model, maybe.
Yeah, and
The only reason I was suggesting behind the dunes is so that Public Works doesn't have to
Right, so that is
Remove them from the
remove
storms.
them for
so if you
storms
do
and
have them, and
ties.
that's the thing too. So if you're going to do them on the beach, that would be a different vehicle that would be on the beach
Right.
versus servicing on the street side.
Sure.
Or it's him walking down the path
Pulling that.
and either
Pulling that.
pulling it manually or
Right.
rolling a cart.
Right. Right.
right, and I just feel like
You can get a couple scenarios of that too, and it'll be a ballpark. It's not going to be, but I think if we know that we're going to do every street side, then I'll break it down to what we kind of evenly makes sense going down the beach at the bigger beach paths.
If we, let's just say we have 55, if we did
20.
20, every other one, and kind of use that as a budgeting model.
that makes sense. And I think so. I definitely the more traffic areas is good, but also just at a certain cadence.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you're thinking of residents walking on the beach, I mean, that's why I think
It's
it's one of the
very
use
kind of,
cases is
yeah.
like, just if you pick up some trash, that, in a couple of stations at least, you'll be able
Yeah.
to drop
Right.
it off.
Yeah, I was thinking too about those enclosures. I know that Kiowa lost all their enclosures with that
That
tide,
looked very new, I will say.
the December storm that they had.
Nor'easter.
So they lost not only the cans, but they lost all the enclosures
Yeah, and just be
too.
mindful
So,
also from what you reported that the Public Works Director of Kiowa was against putting them back on the beach.
right,
I think just for that, and if you kind of think about that in the environmental sense, if you lost all your enclosures and your cans out in the ocean, what'd that do for the environment?
And he didn't like
Versus-
just the aesthetics of,
Right.
you're out on a beautiful pristine beach and you have these things out there.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's what's gotten me,
Yeah.
is just going out there and trying to do this research, and then you're like, why am I even looking at a garbage can on the beach? And that's
Right.
what's kind of funny, when you're there.
yeah.
And I think I think that was
Is
your
behind the
instinct on
dunes
behind
a
the dune
better-
kind of
that's a
addresses
better
that.
Yeah.
I
approach?
think even if you go behind the dunes and then there is we're also working with the fire department to do a different post that signifies each beach access. Like maybe a 6x6 post that kind of goes in conjunction with the enclosure. Maybe there could be some marking on there. Maybe this company also says, was one of Susan's concern was the dog scooper bags. This company, even if we were to say put it on that post, that kind of signifies that, because you're gonna have the dog pooper bag and then throw it away.
Right
It could
away.
be right above, that enclosure could be at that one. It could even say it, whatever. But I think there's ways, if you want to keep them just past the dunes. And to me, when I measured it, I went up there with a measuring wheel on 25th, 150 feet from where the yellow barrels used to be to where you could possibly put them on 25th is not a huge walk if you're out for a walk. I just think, and then if you're looking at this also, if whomever doesn't do this sanitation pickup anymore, Public Works Department, may have to gear up for it, but we can still do it. The cans we can use, we can go, with our smaller trucks, even if they're up on the dune side, pull them, dump them with that same can. So I think it gives us the flexibility that maybe down the road, Public Works expands. Is it something we want to take on? I don't know. But it still gives us the ability in an emergency. God forbid the vendor can't get over here for whatever reason,
Right,
leaves us
yeah.
hanging.
So you're thinking the roadside and the beach side would potentially be our carts that we can,
If you do them in a nice enclosure, I think you could possibly do that. Or you could do it at the ones where you're really trying to make up time, like maybe it is the beach where it becomes that enclosure, but then we get to Front Beach, it's a more aesthetically pleasing enclosure, has that can in it, you could have it wrapped. I think like you're gonna have to do a little bit different in different places.
Yeah.
I think,
I'm thinking of the big belly cans in the business district.
on the street
Personally,
sides,
on the
right?
street,
Yeah.
I
on the
think
street.
the public restroom access, if
Yeah.
you were to do them, it would be public restroom access, maybe, down, any of those big ones, sea cabins or even, down towards Windjammer,
Right.
where they're out of the elements somewhat, you couldn't do them any further back.
No,
um,
no.
But and
I
if you
get
could,
that.
even if you wanted to do a trial or you can get grant money for it or whatever, it may be, that would be the location to start, would be public restrooms. And that is something also, you have a vendor that's gonna service those cans. They're there, they can pull
Pull them
that
out,
one because
right.
that would be, I think they do have liners in those big bellies.
They do, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
pull
how
it and go.
I'm a little surprised that, did you say it's 150?
Well, it's
With
a
the
50-gallon can, but with a compactor.
It gets it
It
down.
It
Yeah.
gets it down to the point of, they said 3 times what
Mm-hmm.
you would normally be able to do with a 50
But our
gallon.
green cans are 100, right?
No, I agree. Yes, 96, you're correct.
So it's not even two green cans, and I guess I'm thinking of busy places have like 6, 7 green cans, so you need 3 or 4 of these to
You
be.
could, yeah.
Which
And
seems at that point, it's probably easier to deal with 6 rollable
Right, and
cans.
the only thing with the big belly is that, they're, if something breaks on it, you're like at a 2-week window for servicing, and that was one of our concerns. And I look at it that way because ultimately, it falls back on Public Works or people call
Yeah.
it City Hall,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I look at it. I think it's a great concept.
It would almost need to be low usage, I think, where you didn't have to, kind of like you didn't have to, 3 cans would last you a week or so. But if you have areas that are high volume and you have 4 of those and you're doing
Maybe the marina.
3 or
Public
4 every day, it seems, or several times a week, I think that would be more labor intensive and not serving a real purpose, actually increasing the work, I
So
think.
just on that area, if you were to go from the boardwalk to showers to where you would put that at the street, I think there's 6 or 7 cans just in that small area.
Serviced how frequently?
Those we do every week.
So
in-
once a week?
So in the season, we pull, that's where Public Works will pull the city cans from all the way up by the showers, behind the restrooms, and then there's 2 right at the street. So there's 2, 4, 6, and then we even have the black barrels, 1 black barrel there. So 6 Public Works will,
But it's only once a week,
in the season, twice a week,
twice a week.
and then now it's once a week.
It's the regular garbage pickup.
Yeah,
So
just
how-
like our regular
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
I would propose that maybe the 3 of us or the 2 of you work on a map and create a dot and identify maybe, what would go where, and then come back with this kind of being the basis of a recommendation with a map. Bring it back to this group, see if you have suggestions or if it's kind of meeting your, what you're envisioning. If so, then we could get kind of a rough magnitude of cost from a vendor and see if it's close enough from a budgetary standpoint
To what we're doing.
to put out to bid, to be ready a year from now, basically, right? I think we have about a year.
September, isn't
September,
it?
yes.
Is it September or October?
I think it's September.
September, yeah.
But that's when the contract expires, right?
Yeah.
You would need to go out to bid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you need to have a plan in place
You need to have
before.
your bids
Yeah, yeah,
already
that's what I was
out
saying.
there,
Yeah.
And,
So now's a good time, really.
Mhm.
Gives us
Yeah,
some
so
time
we
to
want to
really.
get
Very
it,
good
we
time.
kind of want to get our
yeah,
regiment worked through now to be ready in 11 months to transition.
Yeah, okay.
Does that sound good?
Reach
So
out to
we
me,
could
we
be,
can work it
yeah,
out.
we can reach out by email if you
Yeah,
want to do that.
perfect.
Okay,
Whenever you're
Alright.
available.
okay.
Robert, I think that's, you're welcome to stay, but you might have.
I gotta
You
take
might
my
have some-
daughter out for her birthday.
Thank you, Robert.
Happy
So-
birthday to your daughter.
Thank you.
And,
And you
Robert,
just-
give me
just-
your email.
Okay, sure. It's
Uh-huh,
RASERO@IOP.net. And please send me the information. 'cause
Yeah.
That was something we were looking into also.
yeah, okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Alright.
Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
I'll pass it
Thanks
on.
for
Thank
coming.
you, guys.
It's
Take care.
been covered up again, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Oh, I appreciate it.
No problem.
I mean,
Coyote dug
No,
up a
I-
dead turtle we
Doug's-
buried, that he
Doug's
buried.
on-
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Oh
I
my
didn't know
North
y'all worked
Ocean
together
Club.
initially.
you're right.
And it didn't
I mean, for
clean
the
it
last
up?
while, it's felt
Did the
like
coyotes
Doug's
clean
been-
it?
I don't know.
Not
It was-
enough.
It was buried on August 29th.
Oh,
So let's move on. We've got just a couple more
Yep.
items. Water quality, Doug is not here. And so we don't have an update on that I'm
We don't
aware
have
of
any.
unless,
last report, Doug was saying that they were about to start testing. They're kind of waiting on the correct event as determined by GEL.
okay,
You know, they're going to kind of identify, this is the event, it's the right time to test, we're going to go test.
okay.
That hasn't happened, so we're not.
We haven't had
really-
any rain.
Yeah,
A little bit.
so hadn't,
Yeah,
no,
Uh-huh.
no,
Only
no
when we
real
have a
update there.
hurricane.
yeah. Okay, and then Belvin, climate action?
Not really much to report, because like I mentioned, Charleston County is currently without a sustainability
Oh, yeah.
director. And that position being hired will sort of lead to the next stage. I would like to see municipal participation in planning out, priorities for the climate action plan. Was it Polly's Seabrook? I think it was Seabrook. I was emailing with the Seabrook mayor, and he was basically saying, like, we weren't asked about this. I was like, yeah, that's not great. So I think there should be, sort of discussion with local municipalities about, okay, here are 53 action items. What would y'all like to see worked on first? How can we collaborate? So, hoping to facilitate that once the sustainability person is with the county.
So that will be an effort of that position and that coalition that was created to work on that plan?
Yes, to
It's
steward.
kind of the next
climate action plan.
strategy of that plan. Great.
And do we have an update on the solar panel installation? Was there anything?
No, it is on council's agenda to formally approve. They discussed it at the workshop. There were
Okay.
questions about the return on the state and federal monies,
Uh-huh.
their return on investment, that we have that information provided to council for Tuesday night to finalize.
Can we just go back, because there was, under water quality, there was also the update on the city engaging a federal lobbyist.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know if that was something you were going to report on or
Well,
done.
I.
Okay, sorry.
Just an update from Sandy and myself and Doug are gonna meet with Scott Pierce on this weekend to kind of give him a download on all of the information that Ryan had given me and to the water department, so that he can help forward this as an agenda item with the city, with the council. And
So I think that'd
so
be good.
that- So that hopefully there can be a move forward with getting RFPs in for a federal lobbyist to be engaged, not just for, water infrastructure, but I know the city has other big items that, like beach nourishment,
Right.
that need to be addressed.
Yeah, so just a quick update from our standpoint. The Ferguson group, we've met with once, the Water and Sewer Commission has met with once.
Yes.
They're going to be back next week. We have a meeting with them on Wednesday.
Okay.
We have gathered example RFPs, kind of the process that we would go through from other communities that we will need to put into a format for our own kind of purposes. We've also been talking to our current state lobbyists have and I think it's a partnering firm in the Washington area that they're also kind of suggesting would be a good fit for the city. So we're gathering information, preparing that documentation that we'd issue. Mayor thought about putting it just as an updated point on Tuesday night's agenda. I don't know if it will or will not, but it's definitely it's in motion and should be some. It's an unbudgeted item, but I don't know that depending on the pricing coming back, I don't know that there'll be a problem with that unless it's an exorbitant cost. So it's progressing.
Okay, good to
Good.
know. All right.
All right, sorry.
No,
I wanted-
that's okay,
I
that's
wanted to loop
okay,
back around to
sorry.
that.
Under new business.
Well,
Oh, I'm
just,
sorry. Go ahead.
we discussed talking about this building, asking on the repair to sort of evaluate solar feasibility. And I had forgotten where that was left off. Has there been any update on that?
This building has become and kind of a very long-winded story, but the city engaged an architecture firm and a construction firm to analyze this building for kind of a feasibility study of what would it cost to get it back into condition. We asked them at the kind of conceptual stage to incorporate best practices from an environmental standpoint. McMillan, Pasden Smith is the architect. They had LEED certification, and it was kind of in their wheelhouse of a specialty that they have. We have not gotten off of kind of the concept of, do you fix this building at a certain cost, or do you build a new building? They've kind of identified a site. So
You've been frying bigger fish than,
yeah, it's very
okay.
much which location, and they've kind of put together, very conceptual numbers that we believe include kind of best management practices from an environmental standpoint. That was in our proposal to them, that they would fold those in.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what they included in their ballpark pricing, but that will become more kind of germane as we get closer to a site selection. a
Decision
building.
point of, yeah.
We're not there yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like, bigger balls in the air. But one thing I'll just throw out, there is a local green building certification program called Charleston Rises that doesn't have the same expense associated with it as LEED does.
Oh.
LEED is sort of a pricier thing. And Charleston Rises is great. It requires 30% below code requirements for energy efficiency. and just has a few other, incorporated features that it recommends. And, local nonprofit, the Sustainability Institute, carries that out. So
Oh, good.
something to keep in mind.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
I left my
Thank you, Mary. Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay. Anything else? Is that, okay? All right, under new business, I know Todd has wanted to talk to us about the discussion of light pollution and exterior lighting ordinance.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick overview, and then maybe next meeting we can spend a little bit more time on this. But Lucy actually helped me pull together. She's not here today. She has a cross-country meet, so
Oh.
she's out today. But she helped me pull together some information from the internet. So the question was, is light pollution a growing concern or growing problem on the Isle of Palms? My personal observation is that I think it is, and so I wanted to look for some data to see if it kind of supported that. And so she pulled some data from NASA. It's available on the internet. They've been tracking infrared and visible light since 2013, and they published this, and you can zone in on a region or an area, and you can see the trending of light pollution or the amount of light. And the amount of light that Isle of Palms has had since 2013 has increased a little over 4% a year for the last 11 or 12 years. I've also kind of, personally observed that there's a lot of construction obviously going on, new construction or renovations. There seems like there's building dumpsters. I'm sure you've experienced this pain, Matt, more than anybody. The number of permits that go out the door. But one of the things I've noticed, I actually went through a project myself, and our contractor selected a few of the items that we consider to be non-essential, just went out and picked out what he thought was kind of standard, types of things. And one of those things was an external spotlight. And so we picked all the lighting inside, the chandeliers and light fixtures and where the switches were going to go, but the contractor picked a few items. And so the light that showed up was this, very bright blue-white LED light that was just, anyway. So it's just sort of brought to my attention that we probably have unaware of this, we probably have a growing trend where the new LED lights, the standards that Lowe's and Home Depot and others sell are bright white, high lumens lights that are not good for wildlife or humans. Is it something we should think about from a code perspective? So I did look, there's a little bit of data, and again, I'll share more of this next meeting, but I looked at what some of our other Barrier Island communities are doing around this. And I think it's too bad Mary's not here. Mary had shared an article from somebody, it was like a letter to the editor from somebody in Pawleys Island. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to reference that article, and I'm not sure what paper or when that article came out. And then there was another article that I think was actually in Southern Living magazine. So I'm trying to confirm the source of these, but the net of it is Pawleys Island and parts of Georgetown County recently worked with Sandy Cooper to change the lighting in the street lights specifically. And they went after, they used the American Medical Association data to show that the excessive blue bright light is actually bad for humans. It's negatively affects melatonin levels, which leads to health issues in humans and animals. And they ended up going with a reduced outdoor lighting. They reduced the lumens from 6,000 lumens lighting to 2,500, and the color temperature, which is kind of an interesting, this Kelvin color scale. They reduced that from what typically was a 4,000 Kelvin light to a 3,000 Kelvin light. So a softer color light, lower lumens light that they went as their standard for all of their street lights. Folly Beach did something similar. The nuance there was they actually went with a color. They I think it was Folly, went with an amber color for their street lights. And so they went a little bit warmer in the color palette. So, balancing safety for humans with, health for wildlife and humans with their changes. And then finally also introduced an ordinance. They went beyond what we've done here at the Isle of Palms, which is really beachfront lighting. We've got ordinance around protecting the sea turtles and the beach. Folly actually went through the entire island and looked at street lighting as well as external lighting on residential and commercial properties, parking lots and how they're lit up, recreational facilities and that sort of thing. So they have a pretty thorough ordinance, which is included in our packet today. I'm not going to go through that. But the net of it is Isle of Palms has really just focused on beachfront to date. And we have an opportunity to leverage some of the work, the good work that Folly and Polly's have already done, to put in some standards that would be for zoning for construction, would be for, in partnership with our energy provider for the streetlights, on Front Beach or other parts of the, kind of the commonly traveled areas. So that's in a nutshell. I think we have an opportunity to leverage work that our neighbors have done and put together a similar set of ordinances here at the Isle of Palms.
I'm highly in favor. At the Beneath the Oaks Summit, Doug Talmy called out how you lose a lot of insect population and pollinator population to bright lights, actually kind of an insane degree, and just having them be yellowed or ambered does a big
Does a big
thing.
help.
Yeah.
Was the amber an aesthetic for Folly? I mean, or
It was a health
all,
thing.
it was all the health?
It was actually tied to the turtles because they had lighting on the streets near the beach. And so it wasn't directly on the beach, but it was enough that it could provide sort of indirect light
Okay.
to the beach. And so it basically cut down on the spread of the light by having it be
But amber versus
white
a
or
yellow.
blue.
I mean, but the kind of,
Blue.
would yellow have been okay?
I don't know.
Yellow is
Kind of, or whatever that, in
Well, we're
rose, it's like daylight and then it's like warm, I guess.
Yeah.
But amber's, I think of as kind of a red, it's specifically kind of a red, right?
I was
Kind
thinking of it more golden, but
Golden.
Yeah. that's
Oh,
what I
that
was
golden
thinking.
yellow is
Yeah.
amber.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
thinking that was kind of a reddish.
Yeah.
So
no,
the color-
golden
More of a
yellow.
golden.
Quick thing on the scale, the color temperature, if it's less than 2,000 Kelvin, it gives out a dim glow of light, similar to what you find like a candle light. 2,000 Kelvin to 3,000 Kelvin, a little bit more of a soft white glow, often yellow in appearance.
Yeah.
3,100 to 4,500 Kelvin, it gives more of a brighter, like a white light, and that's more for kitchens and offices.
Kind of this.
Kind of yes, what you have with the old,
Probably right here.
what do you call those light bulbs?
Fluorescents.
Fluorescence.
4,600 to 6,500 Kelvin, blue-white light, similar to daylight, best for display areas and work environments where very bright illumination is needed. That is the standard, the number one selling external light at portal I picked on Lowe's.com is a 5,000 K daylight color temperature spotlight.
And that's what
casts-
your builder picked out.
That's what
probably.
my builder picked out. It's cast the light up to 70 feet away from the property. So,
And that would have been, I haven't really pushed your example up against Folly's ordinance, but can we assume that what your builder picked out would have violated Folly Beach's?
it absolutely would
standard?
have, absolutely would. In multiple cases. They also did direction and covering the lights. So the lights on the external spotlights have to be.
Have to be shielded.
They have a shield, they have to be pointing down, they have to have a certain, maximum lumens and Kelvin temperature. So they've done a lot with trying to make sure that you're having light that protects or that provides safety for your property, but doesn't create light pollution
It
beyond.
almost sounds like applying our oceanfront turtle lighting standard to the entire community.
Correct.
And I know we don't have any Kelvin portions to our code. So
Yeah.
it's like applying it island-wide and adding in a Kelvin and
It's really,
wattage.
and that gives the enforcement something to measure against. Because when we say don't put light on the beach, it's kind of hard to say, well, that light that I have on my basketball court it's not on the beach.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is.
You can still see it.
I can see the dunes because your light is on, so it's hard to prove or disprove that. It's easy to prove what's your maximum lumens, what's your Kelvin and your lights, are they directionally, shielded and that sort of thing. It's a lot
You know how
easier
you
for,
measure lumens?
the light itself has a rating on it.
Is it like printed on the bulb, you think?
Or the fixture, or both. If like some of those fixtures have a permanent bulb, they're disposable.
I hate to bring it up, but I mean, these are specifics that can be applied, whereas the big issue with the noise ordinance is that, how much is too much?
Yeah.
This gives us a
more
real
tangible, more
roadmap
measurable.
On what is too much and what is okay.
That we have had as you all probably know, there has been a reluctance to adopt what I would consider kind of behavioral requirements of filling your beach hole. The noise ordinance tweak that gave a very specific decibel reading. There has been a little bit of an uphill push on, and to my recollection, there have not been many, if not any, approved here recently.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, where my mind goes is, I think on the merits, an excellent thing to pursue. And we have a local example in Foley, which is so useful. Insofar as the major stumbling block with this world of, is sort of public opinion resistance and the political will, it might be helpful to talk with the folks on Folly Beach who are in charge of creating this and implementing it,
Yeah.
to hear from them about sort of the resistance and how they move through
How
that.
they move through that process.
I think.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think this is both great and necessary, honestly. I mean, there's the hidden thing of all the pollinators we don't think about. They're just dying because of light. But there's also just the quality of life, enjoyability of our community. You know, it'd feel better, I think, if we had less light pollution.
From my standpoint as well, the fact that we already have a very similar ordinance on the books, and it hasn't been, to my knowledge,
Yeah.
extremely problematic.
Yeah.
To have a similar prohibition on the ocean front,
Yeah.
to kind of, it's a modification of existing standard. It's
Yeah.
not hasn't been terribly problematic in its 25 years of existence. So, I mean, this one, to me, I never know how things they kind of,
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I think people are concerned with safety when they're like very pro light in their yard at night. It can be motion censored, like it's a very that reduces all the impacts, but has the same safety benefits. So I think we can work through it and make it happen.
so
Oh, I'm
good
gonna-
conversation with Folly.
Yeah.
Go back on that, and we'll
Yeah.
just talk about with the whole group.
We can talk back next meeting. Mhm.
Okay,
Sounds great.
that's great. Thank you, Todd.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to provide an update on was there some change on the sea level rise adaptation?
The only thing to update is this group and the planning commission both looked at the plan. We had a meeting with the consultant to kind of talk through those incorporations. They're working on that now, and they will be back with a final draft, I would expect within the next 30 days or so. So it's
Okay.
moving forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I know that I'm not sure if it was addressed just to me or if it was addressed to all the members of the committee. I received a letter from a gentleman regarding the tree ordinance and wanted us to have some discussion about the tree ordinance. And I'd like to table that for this meeting since we are short of time and see if we could maybe add it to the agenda for next time, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I noticed that somebody was turning the lights out on us over there.
That's just 'cause this thing was flashing.
Turning the
Someone's
lights
playing
out.
closing time.
Yeah.
Did everybody get that email?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get it?
I don't know if I got
I don't know.
Possibly. I don't.
Possibly.
Did you get it? I didn't.
Matt did not
I am
get it. Matt's
confused as to what we're talking
Matt
about.
was,
I don't think I got it.
Matt had met with the homeowner, and the homeowner had wanted to remove a tree, and that tree removal did not meet the criteria for our ordinance
Oh.
as it currently exists. And so he was
Did I
asking,
talk to him?
Wait, so
Us.
the tree was protected by the ordinance?
yes,
That's good.
yes.
I know the history. It's a non-native tree. And so that's why he's bringing it to us.
Yes, I think
Oh.
that we have
Yes.
non-native trees that are still protected, correct?
I don't know.
We only don't protect pine trees and invasive
Like
non-natives.
bad for pears,
Bad
those
for
that have
pears,
been,
Right.
If it's on Clemson's list of invasive
Right,
non-natives.
right.
then-
Yeah.
Is he interested in putting in a native in his place?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I
'Cause-
think he offered it at some point, but
uh,
it's ultimately protected still.
okay.
Yeah.
It would be
Large, I
interesting.
think. I
It's
can't
a
remember.
pecan tree
Yeah.
that's losing limbs and it's fallen, limbs have fallen several times. And so he's worried about liability.
Other tree ordinance do have replacement language.
We have to meet the criteria for being, there's one of several criteria that it could meet for removal.
Sick, dying, of a certain age. Yeah.
Keeping, yeah, kind of, but just I mean, that's, if it's now at a point of dropping limbs constantly, I mean, it could meet the hazardous.
If you read the write-up, it actually is interesting. It's Clemson University horticulture, whatever department that referenced that, and actually, there's a quote that the pecan trees do not survive in sand and that they're a threat of being, they would blow over easily like a pine would. So I think that's where he's coming from. His question was, why the pine and not the pecan?
I think I recall that
You talked to him.
Sullivan's, I bet it was Matt. I don't know, unless it was a long time ago. It would have been Matt that talked to him.
I think you both did.
This gentleman?
Uh-huh. Mr. Redford?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked, yeah.
You did too, a long time ago, 'cause you told him some history. He told
A
me the
long
whole.
time. I think Sullivan's may not protect.
They
pecans.
require, they do. You
They
could
do, okay.
Mitigate, I think, though. I don't think they let you mitigate at will, I think.
Kind of
On
like our
those.
palms. They treat them almost.
Yeah, and pines, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, we can take a look at that and
Next
maybe
week,
have some
next
further
month.
discussion about that next time, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
sounds
I'll put
interesting.
that on the agenda.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so our next meeting is scheduled for November the 14th at 4 o'clock.
Do we have space in that meeting? Because I'm cycling off soon, I'm thinking about, things that we haven't tackled while I've been here.
Okay.
And one is leaf blowers. I was at my mom's today, and the leaf blowers were very loud. So I think it'd be interesting to revisit that.
Is that a noise issue or is that a two-cycle motor issue?
So in my mind, it's both. And there are lots of other municipalities that have various solutions in place. And I think one that might be interesting that's sort of a combination of multiple would be one that sort of has like a time range where you can't use wild blowers. Because other cities have sort of a time range where you can use blowers and time where you can't.
I mean, time of the day or time of the
day,
year?
Time of day. But combine that with, allowing electric blowers at any time, which I think would sort of incentivize landscapers to transition to electric without maybe having the same political effect as a blanket ban. Just of interest to me. And there's also a slower, methodical political approach of directly working with the major landscapers, highly suggesting they switch over. But when that's been discussed, I've just noticed it's very slow movement on actually making that happen.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
I'll put it on there for discussion.
yeah, it'd be nice to discuss.
Okay, that sounds good. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.